Have you ever asked yourself what would truly happen if you stopped eating sugar completely, not for a day, not for a week, but for a full 30 days? Could it be possible that the benefits are so vast, so life-changing, that most people can't even imagine them until they try? And what if the very thing keeping you stuck, your cravings, your lack of energy, your mood swings, isn't a lack of willpower at all, but the addictive grip of sugar itself? Hi, I'm Dr. Nana, and today on Senior Health Boost, we're diving deep into what really happens when you cut out sugar for 30 days. The results may surprise you, and they could change the way you think about food and energy for the rest of your life. When you first stop sugar, one of the earliest things you may notice is a type of withdrawal. This is the number one reason people fail. They try quitting for a few days, the cravings hit hard, and they quickly fall back into old habits. Why? Because sugar isn't just a sweet treat, it's a powerful, addictive substance. Sugar stimulates the pleasure and reward centers in your brain in much the same way as heavy-duty drugs like heroin or cocaine. And yet, most people don't realize just how addictive it can be. After all, sugar feels natural. It comes from fruits, sugar cane, or beets. Surely something found in nature can't be that harmful, right? But here's the problem. When sugar is refined and concentrated, it no longer acts like the natural sugar found in whole foods. That concentrated, processed product bypasses the body's normal regulation. If all you ever consumed was fruit, or small amounts of honey or sugar cane, addiction would be unlikely. But when you eat processed foods filled with refined sugar, day after day, decade after decade, the body gets hooked. It no longer knows how to regulate, just a little bit. Another reason you may feel withdrawal in the early days of quitting sugar is that your body temporarily lacks fuel. If you've trained your body to rely on sugar and refined carbs for energy, and then suddenly take it away, your system is left confused. It doesn't know where to get energy. But here's the good news. This phase is short-lived. Very soon, your body begins switching to fat as its primary fuel. Once this happens, you start becoming fat adapted. Fat is actually the body's preferred source of fuel for most organs. It provides a steady, stable supply of energy without the highs and crashes that come with sugar. This adaptation can begin within days, sometimes even hours, after cutting sugar. Over time, weeks, not months, you'll become metabolically flexible, able to draw energy from multiple food sources instead of relying solely on sugar. So why focus on 30 days? Because 30 days is long enough not just to trigger fat adaptation, but also to help you break the habit. A single week might bring noticeable changes, but it isn't long enough to cement a new lifestyle. If you return to eating sugar as before, those early benefits quickly disappear. But 30 days gives your body time to reset, to build new patterns, and to retrain both your metabolism and your brain. I get questions all the time about this. One person asked, does cutting sugar include fruits and complex carbs? What about bread, rice, pasta, or even deli meat that often contains sugar? Another wondered if it included coffee with milk and sugar, since milk has lactose naturally. These are excellent questions, and they highlight an important point: context matters. For example, if you're an active athlete who trains multiple times a week, your carbohydrate needs may be different than someone who is more sedentary. Cutting sugar doesn't look exactly the same for everyone. And while many people start this challenge to lose weight, and yes, weight loss is often one of the biggest motivators, it's only a small piece of the puzzle. The real magic lies in the broader benefits: emotional stability, clearer focus, improved ability to concentrate, and energy that remains steady throughout the day. Think about it. How many people eat breakfast, feel good for an hour or two, but by 10 or a.m. crash hard, desperate for another coffee or snack? That's the sugar roller coaster. And once you step off it, the difference can feel like night and day. So now we know why sugar is addictive, what happens when you stop, and why 30 days can be transformative. But what exactly does your body go through during this process? And how does each type of food, fruits, carbs, even hidden sugars play into it? That's what we'll explore in the next part. In the last part, we talked about why sugar withdrawal feels so intense, how your body begins shifting to fat as fuel, and why 30 days without sugar can be truly life-changing. But now let's go deeper. What exactly do we mean when we say cut out sugar? And why are certain types of sugar more damaging than others? Let's break it down step by step. When people first give up sugar, they often report more stable moods, fewer highs and lows, and a baseline energy that feels stronger than anything they were used to before. And here's one of the biggest hidden benefits. Once you break free from sugar's addictive grip, you gain a new level of empowerment. No longer are you controlled by cravings or external substances. Instead, you're in control of your body, and that is a powerful feeling. But here's a question many people ask me: should I quit sugar gradually, or just stop all at once? With carbohydrates in general, sometimes a gradual reduction works fine. But when it comes to sugar, my answer is clear: go cold turkey. Stop immediately and completely. Why? Because sugar is just that addictive. The stronger your tendency towards sugar addiction, the more important it is to cut it out, 100%. Even a small amount, a spoonful in your coffee, a drizzle of syrup, a bite of dessert can keep the addictive cycle alive, triggering cravings and pulling you back into old habits. So, what exactly do we mean by sugar? Most often, when people talk about sugar, they're referring to sucrose, what we know as table sugar. On a molecular level, glucose by itself is what's called a monosaccharide, a single sugar unit. Sucrose, or table sugar, is a disaccharide, meaning it's made up of two sugars linked together, glucose and fructose. When you eat sucrose, your body quickly splits it into those two simple sugars. The glucose portion goes straight into the bloodstream, raising your blood sugar. This is why when we measure blood sugar, we're actually measuring blood glucose. And when glucose goes up, your body releases insulin, the hormone that moves glucose into your cells. Fructose, on the other hand, behaves very differently. It doesn't raise blood sugar directly. Instead, it places a heavy burden on your liver. Why? Because the liver is the only place in the body that can process fructose. In fact, there are only two substances your liver must handle exclusively: alcohol and fructose. And when you consume too much fructose, it acts very much like drinking too much alcohol. It overloads the liver, leading to fat accumulation and eventually non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Think about that. Conditions that used to appear mostly in alcoholics are now being found in children, simply because of how much sugar, half glucose, half fructose, they're consuming. And yet, so many people are still misled into thinking that certain natural sweeteners are better. I hear it all the time. I never touch white sugar, but I use honey. That's healthy, right? Or, I don't drink soda, but I sweeten my tea with agave. That's good for me, isn't it? Here's the shocking truth. Agave syrup is actually worse than high fructose corn syrup. And if you've ever heard the reputation of high fructose corn syrup, you know that's saying something. Others will proudly say, I don't eat sugar, I only use maple syrup or brown sugar. But here's the reality: there's virtually no difference. Molasses? Same thing. Cane juice or fruit juice concentrate that gets stamped on health foods. Don't be fooled. They're all sugar in disguise, and the body processes them the same way. Now, let's talk about the physical benefits of cutting sugar, because they extend far beyond just weight loss. Yes, weight loss is often the first change people notice, but it's only scratching the surface. Many people report reduced pain, less joint stiffness, and a dramatic decrease in inflammation throughout the body. Inflammation, as research continues to show, is at the root of so many chronic health problems, everything from heart disease to arthritis. Cutting sugar reduces one of the biggest drivers of inflammation, giving your body a chance to heal and function the way it was designed to. And then there's mental clarity. Countless people are amazed at how much sharper their thinking becomes after just a few weeks without sugar. The brain, after all, is highly sensitive to blood sugar swings. When you're no longer on that roller coaster, your ability to focus, to concentrate, and even to stay calm in stressful situations improves dramatically. So far, we've uncovered why sugar is addictive, why going cold turkey is often the only way, and why natural sweeteners aren't the safe alternative they're advertised to be. But we're only getting started. In the next part, we'll look even closer at how cutting sugar can impact your long-term health, your energy systems, and even your hormones in ways you may have never considered. Earlier, we uncovered the truth about sugar, why going cold turkey works best, and how even natural sweeteners like honey, agave, or maple syrup aren't the healthy alternatives they appear to be. Now, let's take a closer look at how sugar really affects the body, how different types compare, and why this matters so much for your long-term health. When people cut out sugar, one of the most noticeable improvements beyond mood and focus is a dramatic reduction in pain and inflammation. Countless people report that nagging aches in the shoulders, wrists, knees, and even fingers begin to ease. Why? Because inflammation feeds on sugar. Remove the sugar, and you reduce the fuel for that inflammation. Of course, Better oral health is another huge win. With less sugar, you'll see fewer cavities, less plaque, less tartar buildup, and healthier gums. After all, harmful bacteria in the mouth thrive on sugar. Take away their food source, and you're protecting your smile in a powerful way. And the benefits don't stop there. Many people are surprised to find improved performance in sports and physical activity. When your body adapts to burning fat for fuel, rather than relying on sugar, you tap into a source of energy that is far more stable and long-lasting. Fat stores are abundant, and once your metabolism becomes efficient at accessing them, endurance naturally improves. It's like switching from a tiny gas tank that runs out quickly to a massive energy reserve that just keeps going. Now let's talk about the types of sugar and how they compare. Sucrose, the white table sugar everyone recognizes, is a 50-50 split, half glucose, half fructose. Many people believe honey is somehow better. And while honey does have antibacterial properties and trace nutrients that sugar doesn't, the truth is that in terms of sugar composition, it's still 50% glucose and 50% fructose. If your goal is to avoid sugar, honey isn't a safe pass. It's essentially the same, just with a natural label and a little extra benefit that doesn't outweigh the negatives. Agave, on the other hand, is one of the biggest traps in the health food aisle. Marketed as a natural, low-glycemic sweetener, many well-intentioned people switch to agave, thinking it's safe. But here's the truth. Agave contains about 20% glucose and a staggering 80% fructose. Because it doesn't spike blood sugar as much, it was once thought to be good for diabetics. But diabetics already struggle with fatty liver, and agave's high fructose content only makes that worse. In fact, agave contains more fructose than high fructose corn syrup. Speaking of high fructose corn syrup, this one has earned its bad reputation for good reason. The variety most commonly used in soda contains about 45% glucose and 55% fructose. On paper, that doesn't look drastically worse than table sugar. But here's the difference. In sucrose, glucose and fructose are chemically bonded together, so the body needs a moment to break them apart. High fructose corn syrup, however, comes with glucose and fructose already separated. This means the glucose hits your bloodstream instantly, causing a much faster and higher blood sugar spike. Combine that with its slightly higher fructose content, and you can see why it's even more damaging. Maple syrup is another sweetener people like to think of as better. After all, it's natural tree sap, but chemically, it breaks down to once again 50 glucose and 50% fructose. Yes, it has trace minerals and a few extra nutrients, but those don't erase the fact that it's sugar. The same goes for molasses. Slightly more nutrients, yes, but in the end, still half glucose, half fructose. Cane sugar often gets rebranded in health foods as evaporated cane juice or cane syrup. But make no mistake, it's sugar. The problem is that after the dangers of high fructose corn syrup became widely known, companies began promoting cane sugar as a better alternative. And while it may look less industrial, in reality, it's still essentially the same thing. So what's the bottom line? Whether it's table sugar, honey, maple syrup, molasses, agave, or cane sugar, they all break down into glucose and fructose. Some might give you a few trace nutrients, but they're still sugars, and they still create the same metabolic problems. Now, many people ask, okay, but how does all this compare to bread or rice? Are those sugars too? That's exactly where we're headed next, because what most people don't realize is that common foods like bread, pasta, and rice can spike blood sugar just as much as eating sugar directly. And that's where the story gets even more surprising. We've seen how different sugars, white sugar, honey, agave, and corn syrup ultimately break down into glucose and fructose, often leaving the body inflamed and fatigued. But sugar isn't the only culprit. To fully understand what happens when you cut sugar for 30 days, we need to look at another major player, starch. The truth about starch. Most people think of bread, rice, or pasta as different from sugar. But at their core, they're made up of starch, and starch is really just chains of glucose. Imagine a long string of pearls, with each pearl representing one glucose molecule. These chains can stretch into the hundreds, even thousands, and when we eat them, enzymes in our saliva start breaking them apart almost instantly. That's why starchy foods like bread and rice spike blood sugar just as fast, or sometimes even faster, than table sugar. The difference is that starch doesn't contain fructose, which is why it isn't quite as damaging as sugar. Still, it floods the bloodstream with glucose, and the body has to work hard to deal with it. bread, rice, and healthy version steak white bread, for example. In terms of carbohydrate content, it's basically 100% glucose. Yes, it has a little bit of water, protein, and fat, but the carbs are pure glucose. Whole grain bread gets marketed as a health food, and while it does contain some fiber and trace nutrients, it still spikes blood sugar almost the same way. The same is true for rice. White rice is pure glucose, and brown rice, though it contains slightly more nutrients, doesn't change the fact that it converts entirely into glucose. Pasta, potatoes, corn, all starches. They might look different on your plate, but once digested, they all act the same in your bloodstream. Now here's the exciting part. If you cut out sugar and starches even for just 30 days, you can see dramatic changes in your health. Yes, you'll lose weight and feel more energetic. But even more importantly, you'll improve your gut health, strengthen your immune system, and reduce the risk of infections like colds or the flu. The link between starch, sugar, and insulin resistance is why starch and sugar together are so dangerous. Insulin resistance is fueled by two factors: high blood sugar from glucose and liver overload from fructose. Sugar contains both. Starch contains only glucose, but still raises blood sugar sharply. For many people, cutting out sugar alone is enough to make a big difference. But for those already dealing with insulin resistance, prediabetes, or fatty liver, starch may also need to be reduced. Because starch doesn't contain fructose, it doesn't clog the liver the same way sugar does, but it still forces insulin to rise again and again, which keeps resistance alive. And why does that matter? Because fatty liver is at the core of so many chronic diseases. Type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, unhealthy cholesterol levels, strokes, dementia, even Alzheimer's are all linked to fatty liver and insulin resistance. Cutting sugar is the first step to reducing that risk. Cutting starch may be the next. Who needs to cut starch, and who doesn't? This is where context matters. Not everyone responds the same way to starch. It depends on where you fall on the metabolic spectrum. Doctors often look at A1C, which is your 3-month average of blood glucose. A healthy A1C should be under 5.5. Pre-diabetic levels tend to be around 6, and anything over 6.5 is considered type 2 diabetes. Alongside A1C, fasting glucose numbers help too. Healthy, under 95 mg D, deeper diabetic, around 110 mg or D, type 2 diabetic, 130 mg or DL or higher. But there are even better markers, like triglyceride levels and direct insulin testing, which give a clearer picture of insulin resistance. So, do you need to cut out starch completely? If you're diabetic or strongly insulin resistant, the answer is yes, you'll benefit most from avoiding both sugar and starch. But if you're lean, active, and metabolically healthy, moderate starches like rice or potatoes may not be harmful, especially if balanced with protein, fat, and fiber. The weight loss question: here's a common worry. If I cut sugar, won't I lose too much weight? I'm already thin. The answer is reassuring. Cutting sugar benefits everyone, regardless of weight. Sugar affects every system in the body, not just fat storage. If you're on the thinner side, the solution is simple: increase your intake of healthy fats and proteins. These provide steady energy and help maintain muscle without spiking insulin. For someone who is overweight or insulin resistant, cutting sugar and starch is crucial. For someone lean and active, keeping some starch may be fine. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on your body, your activity level, and your metabolic health. So yes, bread, rice, pasta, corn, and potatoes are all forms of sugar once digested. They raise blood sugar quickly and demand insulin to manage them. For some people, moderate amounts may not cause much harm. For others, especially those already struggling with insulin resistance, starches are best minimized or avoided. And here's the key: wherever you are on that spectrum, removing sugar is the universal first step. Starches come next, depending on your health goals and your body's signals. Now that we've explored how sugar and starch really work in the body, it's time to go one step further. What happens when you not only cut them out, but also replace them with foods that truly support your metabolism, energy, and long-term health? That's exactly what we'll dive into next. As we've seen throughout this journey, not everyone needs to cut out every single carbohydrate in the exact same way. For some people, especially those who are thin, active, and metabolically healthy, a small amount of starch may actually support better energy and performance. That doesn't mean starch should ever become a foundation of the diet. but in moderation, it can be tolerated. And if you choose starch, I'd recommend leaning toward potatoes rather than grains, since grains often cause digestive problems or sensitivities for many people. But here's the bottom line. Everyone should avoid sucrose, that is, table sugar in all its variations. For those who are overweight, insulin resistant, or dealing with type 2 diabetes, the rules are stricter. In that case, both added sugars and starchy foods need to be eliminated to give the body a real chance at recovery. What about the small stuff? Deli meats, coffee, and more. This brings up another common question. What about the little hidden sugars in things like deli meats or processed foods? From a metabolic perspective, a slice of deli meat that contains 1 gram of sugar isn't going to wreck your health. If that's the only sugar you're consuming, your metabolism won't even notice. But if you're someone with a very strong addiction to sweet flavors, or if you want to be extremely strict, a purist approach might be best. That means cutting out even those tiny sources. Coffee is another big one. Black coffee? Absolutely fine. If you're not sensitive to dairy, a splash of milk, or better yet, half and half, is usually not an issue. What I strongly recommend, however, is removing sugar completely. No packets, no syrups, no just a teaspoon. At first, coffee might taste a little bitter without it, but within just a few days, your taste buds begin to reset, and soon you'll enjoy the natural flavor of coffee again. The truth about fruit. Now let's tackle another myth. Eat more fruits and vegetables. You hear this everywhere. But here's the key. Fruits and vegetables are not the same category. Vegetables? Absolutely eat plenty of them, especially non-starchy vegetables. Leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, all of these nourish the body, provide fiber, and help stabilize blood sugar. Fruit, on the other hand, is a different story. If you're on the green side of the spectrum, healthy, lean, and insulin sensitive, you can enjoy some fruit. A handful of berries, maybe an apple or pear here and there. But even then, I wouldn't recommend fruit every single day, and certainly not year-round in unlimited quantities. For those on the red side, the diabetic or insulin-resistant spectrum, the rules tighten. You can still enjoy a handful of berries occasionally, but other fruits should be avoided. Remember, fruits are nature's candy, and while natural, they still contain fructose, which the liver has to process. Benefits you might not expecting. Sugar for 30 days brings more than weight loss or better blood sugar. Many people notice something truly surprising. Their taste buds change. When you strip away processed sugar, artificial flavors, and chemical sweeteners, your palate resets. Food tastes fresh and vibrant again, sometimes for the very first time. A strawberry will taste unbelievably sweet, a carrot crisp and flavorful. It's as though your brain and taste buds finally wake up. Another benefit? Cost savings. At first glance, healthier whole foods may seem more expensive. But when you stop overeating, when you no longer rely on constant snacks and sugar fixes, you'll likely spend less overall. And for some, there are even improvements in vision. High blood sugar can cause swelling in the blood vessels of the retina, leading to blurred vision or even blindness in extreme cases. Diabetes is, in fact, the #1 cause of blindness. But even before it gets that severe, small reductions in blood sugar can dramatically improve clarity and focus. The 30-day challenge. This is why I encourage you to take the challenge. Cut out sugar completely for 30 days. See what happens. You don't have to take my word for it. Try it for yourself. Notice your energy. Notice your mood. Notice the changes in your body, your cravings, even your sleep. And then, please come back and share your story. Leave a comment, not just for me, but for others who are watching. Your testimony may inspire someone else to take that first step. If you've already done this challenge, I encourage you to write about it below. The ripple effect of your experience can be life-changing for someone else who is still on the fence. So here's the truth. Cutting sugar isn't just about losing weight. It's about reclaiming your health, your energy, and your future. It's about reducing inflammation, protecting your liver, improving your brain, and even resetting the way your body tastes and craves food. If you've watched this far, that means you're serious about your health. And that's why I want to invite you to be part of this journey with me. If you found value in this video, hit the like button. It helps more people discover life-changing information. And don't forget to subscribe to Senior Health Boost and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Every week, we bring you powerful insights that can truly transform your health and longevity. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I'm Dr. Nana, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay strong, stay healthy, and keep boosting your life with Senior Health Boost.